Bad things come in threes, they say. I think it's true. Last month, I had to put my dog down. Buzzo got infected by some unknown bacteria while running in the city park. Though my vet tried her best to save him, but sometimes doing everything you can isn't enough. I cried a lot after burying him in our local cemetery. A week after this, I caught my boyfriend cheating on me. Our 4 years relationship ended in 1 minute. Then, when I thought things can't get any worse, I got fired from my job. I shut myself in my room and didn't go out for 2 weeks. The only thing that gave me the strength to get back up again was my art collection. It was the only thing that accompanied me through the difficult times. I spend most of my time looking and curating my collections. Soon, I managed to find a new job, albeit it was located very far from my home. It was a 30-minute bus ride and then a 20-minute walk to my apartment. That was pretty much the only downside. Because the bus ride was very boring and only a handful of people took the bus at such late hours. So, every day while leaving office, I prayed to God to get me home safely. It's scary walking home alone at night. Probably even more so for women. I often worked overtime, and by the time I got off the bus, it would be around 9 p.m. 20 or so more minutes of walking meant that I would get home near 9:30 p.m. In December, when it got dark by 5 p.m., it was pretty dangerous. I always walked as fast as I could and held my keys between my knuckles. The other hand was always in my coat pocket, ready to grab the pepper spray. For a couple of weeks, nothing ever happened until last night. Last night everything was different. I worked later than usual, so by the time I went to the bus stop, it was 8:30 already. The stranded bus stop stood on the street like a forgotten memory. The last bus comes at 9, so I realized I have to wait for half an hour. I shivered and scrunched up my shoulders. It was -15 degrees, and I couldn't wait to get home and snuggle underneath my covers. My face was starting to get numb due to the cold. I kept my bag on the bench to light up a smoke. I have recently started smoking again. As I clicked my lighter and the yellow flame flashed up, my eyes went to the other side of the road. A guy was standing there, looking directly at me. His clothes were unclean, covered in patches of dirt. His blonde hair had a grayish tint as a result of seldom bathing. The skin of his face was in bad condition too. There were scratched wounds and pimples all over his cheeks and forehead. In one word, he looked like a homeless person with a serious drug problem. After staring at me for a few seconds, the guy started to slowly walk in my direction. I didn't flinch or reacted to this. I let out the first drag of my cigarette and just kept my other hand inside my pocket grabbing the pepper spray tightly. He crossed the road and came to the bus stop. Not getting any reaction from me, he tried to act cool. He kicked a pebble on the street and then looked at me again. I could feel his eyes on me. But before he could walk up to me, bright headlights appeared from the distance. I looked up at the sky and thanked God for making the bus arrive earlier that night. Without wasting a single second, I threw away my half-burnt cigarette and grabbing my bag got on the bus. But unfortunately, the man didn't leave me alone. He got on the bus too. There were 4 to 5 people on the bus. I sat down on a window seat and the man stood near the gate. As our eyes met, he grinned ear to ear, showing his grimy yellow teeth with stains of tobacco or God knows what. I realized he is planning to get off at my stop so that he can do whatever came to his mind when he saw me at that bus stop. But as haven't done or said anything disrespectful, so I couldn't take any actions against him yet. When my stop came, I got up to walk past him. I was waiting for him to do or say anything weird so that I can scream and tell the other passengers about him. But to my surprise, he moved out of my way like a gentleman so that I can get off the bus without any trouble. I got down and as expected he did the same too. I once again grabbed the pepper spray tightly because I knew now, he is going to follow me home. I turned around. And there he was following me like a night owl. His eyes glowed like a wolf. The sick smile remained on his face. He was walking at a slow pace. The sound of his shoes crunching on the concrete ground increased my heartbeat. I started to walk faster. His footsteps quickened too. I gripped my keys tightly and looked back. He blew a kiss at me and called out to me. "Hey, baby, where you going?" I stopped and screamed, "Leave me alone or I'm calling the cops." "The cops will take 10 minutes or more to come for your rescue. Whereas I can cover the distance between us in 5 seconds or less. Do you still think that's a good option?" I started running. I knew he was going to follow me and I couldn't let him follow me home. Gasping for breath, I blindly turned into a smaller side street. The street lights started flickering violently, matching the rhythm of my heartbeat. It was a dead end. I was trapped. I turned around and faced him. The street lights stopped flickering and stayed on. As he walked closer to me, I saw his face more clearly. He had a bad odor like a goat. His blue eyes sparkled and he gazed at me hungrily. He smiled creepily and spat on his palm. Then wiped the saliva all over his face like he was applying sun cream. I slowly put the keys in my pocket and tightened my grip on the pepper spray. He walked closest to me and said in his cold, spine-chilling voice, "I told you it wouldn't take more than 5 seconds. So, what now, little birdie? Are you planning to fly away?" I took a step back and he let out a demonic laugh. "I love the fear in your eyes. It will feel nice to tear your clothes apart and enjoy what's underneath." He grasped my shoulders and pulled me closer to him. "Are you ready, my love?" I took out the pepper spray aimed at his eyes. In a second, he fell on the floor screaming in excruciating pain and I let out a sigh of relief. Now, I can finish my business in peace. While he laid on the ground writhing in pain, I took out my last and final weapon. A blank syringe. I filled it with air and then pushed it on the exact spot around his neck which will make his heart collapse in no time. This is how I hunt my victims. It's easy and safe. Once his movements stopped forever, I took out his eyes. This is going to be an extraordinary addition to my collection. Oh, I forgot to tell you. I love collecting human body parts that remind me of an incident. Like his eyes will remind me of this night. I have prepared a jar full of chemical solutions. I keep his eyes in them. Right beside my boyfriend's heart. This happened last month and I'm still in shock. My boyfriend and I went hiking in Alabama. We both are avid campers and organized many camping trips so far. But it was our special tour, so we chose a high range surrounded by deep green woods. Alex is very sporty and loves joking to cheer up the mood. The woods were deep and we had to carry a map of the area so that we didn't get lost. After parking our car at the road near the hiking trail, we took our backpacks and started the journey. The plan was to hike to the big waterfall amidst the forest and then come back eventually. The waterfall was located right in the middle of the forest, so we had to walk a moderate amount of distance. I was feeling all refreshed as soon as the pure air touched my lungs. I have always been a fitness freak, so hiking is like meditation for me. Luckily, Alex shared the same interest and this is why we fell for each other. Isn't the weather lovely? Not more than you. Oh, stop it. Don't be so cheesy. Look there. As I followed the direction he pointed to, Alex tickled me in the waist and ran ahead of me like a 6-year-old. You know, I'm faster than you. Then why are you standing so far? I ran to him and he started running ahead again. He was mocking me and I was laughing too while chasing him in those woods. Life is really fun with him. After a point, we got tired and stopped to take a few breaths. We can't lose our energy like this. The waterfall is still a few miles away. Come on, we have to get back before dark. Yeah, like it was my idea to chase you. He caressed my cheek while smiling flirtatiously, and we started to walk again. There were narrow trails scattered around the woods, and we had no idea which one ended where. The only thing we knew was that one wrong direction was enough to get us lost in these woods forever. After walking for 2 hours straight, when we reached near the waterfall, the sun was above our heads. The average height of the waterfall stood like a hidden world. I have been to many forest waterfalls before, but don't know why this one felt like a dream. The stones covering the waterfalls were all covered in green moss. Even the small pond where the water dropped was green too. Wow! The water is so green. Yeah. Makes it look even more beautiful. I'm feeling hungry. Let's eat, shall we? Alex sat down on a big rock and started taking pictures on his phone while I unpacked our lunch. I brought chicken sandwiches, fruit salads, and some chocolate pudding. I knew the long hike would make us hungry, so I brought enough for the two of us. I handed him the sandwich and started to eat some salad first. We were eating and enjoying the sound of the waterfall when another sound came to our attention. The waterfall wasn't that big, so the sound was quite mellow. With the reverberating water, there was a sound of soil. Like someone was digging the ground. The sound came from the end of a narrow trail on our left. What is that sound? Seems like we are not the only ones here. Doesn't it sound like digging? Let's check it out. But we should be heading back in some time. Yeah, we will, Corey. But don't you want to know the mystery behind this sound? I still regret not saying no. We left our belongings near that waterfall and started to follow that sound. After walking 2 to 3 minutes on that narrow trail, we reached a big tree. The sound was now clearer. As we peeked behind that tree, we saw a weird-looking man digging holes in the middle of the woods. He was wearing brown trousers and a tattered jacket. He wore black rubber gloves and was digging the soil with a rusty spade. He was sweating like hell due to the exertion of the work. But the hole he dug wasn't even a foot deep, so I wondered why he looked so tired. What the hell is he doing? Doesn't he look too tired to dig a hole that small? Exactly, I was thinking that too. The man suddenly looked in our direction and we hid behind the tree quite immediately. Alex whispered to me, "Do you think he saw us?" I was breathing heavily out of panic, so I didn't answer him and waited for the digging sound to start again. Everything remained silent for a few seconds. At that time, I could imagine the man staring at the big tree with his creepy eyes, hoping to see someone interfering in his mysterious business. But when the digging resumed again, we both exhaled a sigh of relief. I looked at Alex and said in a low voice, "I don't want to stay here anymore. Can we please leave?" "Yeah, let's crouch down so he doesn't see us." We crawled the ground like a four-legged animal to avoid being seen by this weird man. After coming back to the waterfall, we started to pack our stuff when Alex said, "Can you hear that?" "I don't hear anything." Exactly. The digging sound has stopped. I wonder what he is doing now. Well, I don't. I am going back. You are most welcome to join me. Alex and I started to hike back, but as we wasted our time spying on this creepy guy, when we reached the car it got dark. We had to drive for an hour more to leave the woods and get on the highway. Thinking how scary it would be to drive amongst the wood, I felt extremely scared. Also, the sight of that man spooked me enough. We got inside our car and Alex started the engine. As the headlights hit the dark road ahead, a cold shiver ran down my spine. The creepy man with the spade was now standing on the road, blocking our way. He was looking at our car with a gaze full of nothing but hatred. But then he smiled most disturbingly and said, "What did you see?" His voice was squeaky and harsh at the same time. My hands were numb and Alex's face turned pale too. He replied in a fumbled voice, What the, did he follow us? I asked you a question. What did you two see back there? Nothing, okay. We saw nothing, just you digging a stupid hole in the ground. Now move out of our way, before we run over you. Hearing me threaten him, his eyes got even bigger with fury, and he spat on our windshield. Are you insane? Why can't you just leave us alone? Because you guys didn't do the same to me, I can't let you leave. I am sorry. Or maybe I am not. Saying this, the man ran at us at full speed and smashed the windshield with his spade. With just one hard hit, the entire glass cracked. Start the car. Start the car, Alex. Alex turned on the engine and the man hit the windshield once again, making the glass shatter. I was covered in broken glass that resulted in cuts all over my skin, so was Alex. But he pressed the accelerator with all his strength, and with a loud screech the car started. The man immediately jumped to the side of the road to save himself from getting run over. I swear if he didn't move, we would have run him over that night. As we drove away, he watched us while cursing in foul language. When we got onto the highway, we were shaking in fear. I started crying with this trauma, and Alex was petrified too. We went straight to the nearby police station and reported this incident. The cops took pictures of our car for their report and told us to identify the spot where we saw that man digging. The next day, we all went to that same place, but the man was nowhere to be found. The cops searched the area with dogs, and they barked at the ground where he was digging. The cops found a body of a young boy who was missing for a year. The boy had torture marks all over his body and signs of strangulations on his neck. It seemed like this man abducted the kid and tortured him for ransom. But his torture grew to such an extent that the boy eventually died. Being scared of the cops, he came deep into these woods to bury his body. He had to drag the body all this way, which is why he was panting while digging the hole that day. Alex and I have given proper information about his facial structures so the cops can catch this psycho murderer. I hope he gets arrested soon for what he did. I am still in shock with this incident. It's been 2 years now, but whenever I close my eyes, this horrifying memory keeps playing in the loop. After graduating high school with good grades, I got into the university of my choice. I was never a popular girl in high school, but somehow in university, I ended up in a sorority house with the most popular girls of the university. It was the week before Halloween and most of the girls went to their hometown to celebrate with their family and friends. There were 5 of us who stayed back. We decided to arrange a small late-night party in our sorority so that we don't feel left out from the celebration. Our house mother, Mrs. Marlin, was a nagging widow. She was a bit rude and often got into fights with girls over petty matters. My friend Elena said, "The old hag is just jealous of young girls." On the morning of Halloween, as I came downstairs, I saw everyone was decorating the big living room with various Halloween props. Elena and Jessie were busy hanging cobwebs and bats on the ceiling, whereas Martha and Ruthie were making lists of the amount of booze and snacks we will be needing. Knowing them for last 1 year, I said, "Guys, you know boys aren't allowed." "Yes, Miss Funsucker, we know that," Martha replied. I laughed it off and started helping them for the party. As the night fell, the streets were blooming with green neon lights and people running around in all kinds of Halloween costumes. I sat in front of the window while everyone else was still getting ready to go out. Kids dressed as Goblin, Superman, a ghost were knocking door to door with their candy buckets, screaming in cheerful voices, "Trick or treat." I remember doing this in my childhood with my foster friends. I had a friend named Bethany who often shared her candy with me. Those days were fun. "Come on, let's go." I saw Elena coming down with others. I came out and stood on the sidewalk with Martha and Ruthie. Elena and Jessie were locking the door when Mrs. Marlin spoke in her annoying squeaky voice from her room's window, don't sneak boys in on your way back. Keep your dirty business out of my house. Yes, we know how much that will make you sad to see us having fun with voice. Elena screamed and we all couldn't help but laugh. Mrs. Marlin went on cussing us and we started the walk. People were going crazy like always. We saw a bunch of young boys and girls chugging beer like water on the open street. We lived in a small neighborhood where cops didn't usually strike on occasions like that. After walking for 15 minutes, we left the maddening crowd and got onto an empty highway. The liquor shop was adjacent to a gas station. Generally, cars are always passing by the high road, but that night everything seemed awfully quiet. When we reached the gas station, we saw the liquor store was just about to close. Martha and I waited outside while others rushed in to get the booze. No boys can be acceptable, but no booze on Halloween was too much of a sacrifice for us. Martha lit a cigarette and I watched the streetlights lighting up the long, empty highway. I might have chatted with her when her boyfriend called and she got busy. She went in the corner to get some privacy, and like always I was left alone. I took out my phone and started to scroll through my Facebook feed and an uncanny feeling grabbed me. I took my eyes off the phone and saw a minivan standing in the gas station at some distance. When we arrived here, this van wasn't there, so I realized it came a few moments earlier. I watched to see who gets out of the van. When a minute went by and no one came out, I felt very weird. I could guess whoever was inside the van was watching me. I thought of going inside and hurrying my friends, but I didn't want to leave Martha alone either. I had to bear with this disturbing event for a minute more when finally, everyone came out. As soon as we five gathered around to check if we have all the things we need, the minivan slowly took off. I thought whoever was inside might have been scared knowing we are a group of 5. I didn't tell anyone about this because we still had a long walk home and I had no intention to spook them. We started to head back after getting everything. Martha, Elena, and Ruthie were walking ahead while Jesse and I followed them. I was constantly looking back to see if the minivan was following us. Thankfully it wasn't. When we entered the neighborhood, the streets were mostly empty as everyone went to Halloween parties and kids went home. I was relieved that soon we will be home when I noticed a minivan coming from the opposite. It stopped at some distance, flashing the bright headlights right into our eyes. "Hey, you jerk!" Elena screamed. "What the hell?" Martha replied annoyedly. They all started to scream and threatened whoever was in the minivan to shut the damn lights, and the driver parked the minivan under a bushy tree near the sidewalk. As soon as the sound of the engine stopped, Jesse screamed saying, "Looks like no one invited you to a party because of your weird nature." Everyone laughed hilariously. It was the same van from the gas station. We were about to walk past the van when the driver's side door opened and an average height man came out dressing like Michael Myers. I got chills because that man's costume looked bloody realistic. "Whoa, that's a hell of a costume," Elena said in a mocking tone. "Elena, please, we should just go. I'm not liking this guy," I said in a scared voice. "Why? Are you scared of this pimp? Come on, he is just a creep with no friends of his own. Take that, you creep." Elena went on abusing him, but he stood silently and watched us. We walked past him finally, and for one last time, I looked back. What I saw made my skin crawl in fear. He was counting us like a small kid who counts stars in the sky. We stood on the porch while Jesse unlocked the door. I noticed Mrs. Marlin's lights were out. The neighborhood was suddenly quiet like a dark, hollow tunnel. Except for the chirping crickets, there was no sound. Everyone got inside and started the party, but I couldn't shake off the image of this creep dressed as Michael Myers. I slowly went to the window and peeked behind the curtains. The minivan was now standing on the opposite side of our house. And the man was standing leaning his back on the back of the van and watching our house directly. I stepped back and told everyone. Even though we wanted, but we couldn't call the cops because he wasn't doing anything, just stalking us like a creep. Suddenly the lights went out. What the hell? I screamed. Relax. It's probably the old fuse that I told Elena to change long back. Ruthie said. Elena rolled her eyes at her and Ruthie picked up a torch to go down the basement. I went to look out the window and this time the van was gone. Where did he go? I asked. Somewhere where he can score chicks. Go get the candles now. Elena said. I heard Ruthie's footsteps fading down the stairs. Jesse and I went to get the candles while Elena and Martha sat in the living room turning on their phone's flashlight. I was in my room taking out the candles from my desk drawer when my eyes went to Mrs. Marlin's window. I felt someone was standing at her window. I flashed my phone's torchlight to get a clear view and fell on a familiar face. The guy dressed as Michael Myers was standing in Mrs. Marlin's window and looking at me. He slowly lifted his right hand to show me what he was grabbing. Believe me or not, I almost had a heart attack as I found him holding the severed head of our house mother like a trophy. I screamed at the top of my lungs and ran downstairs. Jesse, Elena, and Martha freaked out hearing me. They couldn't believe that the creepy guy murdered Mrs. Marlin. Elena and Jesse went to check all the locks of the doors and windows of our house, while I stood there sobbing like a 9-year-old after witnessing the most horrible sight of my life. Martha dialed 911, told the cops to arrive soon as we have a criminal. The cops told us to be calm and they will be here soon. But I knew even if they drive at the speed of a rocket it'll take 20 to 30 minutes to reach here. I was contemplating what to do when I heard Jesse's scream. Martha and I ran in her direction and we saw Elena was stuck to the back door as a sharp harpoon went through her stomach making her entrails gush out. She coughed blood while staring at us and then became still forever. Oh, my God. He's going to kill us without even entering the house. Jesse screamed. Where is Ruthie? I said in a panic. We called out to her standing near the basement stairs when we heard her voice from the backyard. I'm here, I came to drop the garbage. Why are you all screaming? We three ran towards the back door again. Elena's bloody body was still standing there. Ruthie. Run. Run. He's behind you. Martha screamed. Ruthie turned back and from the dark corner of the yard, an arrow went through her left eye. She didn't even get the chance to scream. The crazy psycho pulled her body into the dark and we stood there watching our friends get hunted like this. We realized if we go near the windows this man will shoot us with his weapons. Out of option, we curled onto the floor holding each other's hand while crying in terror. Heavy footsteps and wild breathing went on our backyard as the psycho treaded back and forth looking for one opportunity to get his hands on us. I don't remember how long we waited, but when the cop car's sirens took place, we heard the minivan drive away. It has been 2 years since then. The cops haven't been able to find the murderer in Michael Myers' costume. Martha, Jesse, and I left the sorority and back to our hometown. I have no contact with them, but every Halloween someone sends me postcards with wishes written by my dead friend Elena and Ruthie. I know it's him and all he is waiting for is one single opportunity to get the three of us under one roof and finish what he started on a cursed night of Halloween. Thanks for watching. If you would like to submit a personal story of yours for the chance to have it narrated on this channel, please send your story to the email in the description. I would love to know, down in the comments, what story was your favorite. Don't forget to join me on Instagram and TikTok and I will see you all soon, with another creepy video.